Shalom, everyone. Barachot habaot, barachim habaim. Boker tov to some of you, tzarayim tovim to others, and erev tov to those of us who live on this side of the planet, in Israel and in Europe. Welcome to the Netivot Shalom's teaching on Shavuot. Netivot Shalom was known as the Slonomer Rebbe from the Slonomer dynasty, Rav Shalom Noach Berezovsky. He lived here in Yerushalayim, passed away not that long ago. And he's going to teach about the cultivation of a spiritual practice. But before we dive into the actual text, and as I wrote in the email, those who have learned with me know that I really prefer to present the Hebrew text with the English. There's something about hearing the Hebrew, especially when it is written originally in Hebrew, but we really don't have time for that. This is a 3-page in English translation that I translated. So forgive me for not sharing the Hebrew, maybe at a later date, but we have the English with us. I want to ask you all to think for a moment. And before we even think for a moment, let's feel our breath for a moment. Let us be aware of being breathed into, and let us pause and gaze at that. And let us then, as we return the breath, imagine we are returning this gift that's on loan. And pause again and gaze at the experience of not feeling breath. Let's begin with 3 cycles so we can connect more within ourselves and within our virtual Beit Midrash. I ask you, and thank you, I ask you, what is the mitzvah that is specific to Chag HaShavuot? We see with every Chag, the ones that are mentioned in the actual written Torah, the ones that came about afterwards, Chanukah, Purim, Chanukah. Each holiday has a particular mitzvah, or even a few mitzvot. What is the mitzvah of Shavuot? I don't expect anyone to answer yet. Yeah, learning Torah. Maybe. Let's see what the Slonomer Rebbe, the Netivot Shalom, suggests. I'll give you a hint. In our prayer, in our davening, in our tefillah for Shavuot, the rabbis who codified the Amidah, the Shemona Esrei, the holiday prayers, the silent prayer, refer to Shavuot, Zman Matan Toratenu. This is the time of the giving of our Torah, that wonderful, amazing event at Har Sinai. Perhaps in that phrase, Zman Matan Toratenu, I would like to suggest we may be able to draw out from that, perhaps, what the mitzvah of Shavuot is. My hope is that by the end of the teaching, we will know, or at least have a sense of what the Netivot Shalom believes. Cultivating the spiritual practice of hitbatulut he'enochiyut. What does that mean in Hebrew? Diminishing the sense of the finite anochi, ani, the me, in order to be a part of the infinite we. What an amazing concept. Think about that. I don't have to eliminate me. I don't have to despise me. I don't have to negate me. I just need to make a little bit more space for something greater than me, And then the me becomes part of the we. This is the pasuk. I'll read it in Hebrew, and you have the English. This is the one part of Hebrew I'd like you all to hear. It's in Sefer Devarim and Deuteronomy. It's in Perek Hey, the 5th chapter, and it's 2 verses. It's 2 psukim, Daled and Hey. This is Moshe talking to the Chevre as they're getting ready to go into Israel, and he's getting ready to depart this earth and go into the next realm. This is what he tells them. He reminds them, Panim b'fanim diber Adonai imachem b'ha mitoch ha'esh. Face to face, the Eternal spoke with you at the mountain amidst the fire. And then the next pasuk. Now this is Moshe talking. Anochi omed ben Adonai uvenechem be'etahi. And then Moshe says, and I stood between the Eternal and you at that time. I hope at least a few people are bothered by that. The Rambam surely is. The Rambam teaches the Netivot Shalom, points out that apparently these 2 verses contradict each other. And it's clear that they contradict. Face to face, God is speaking to us. And then Moses says, I am standing between you. The peak moment that the Bnei Yisrael merited to experience during the exalted occasion at the receiving of the Torah was the direct encounter with God, with the omnipotent, with the one, as suggested by the phrase, the Eternal spoke with you face to face, panim lefanim. The mystic tradition describes this face-to-face encounter as the supreme intimate union between God and the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. Similar to the private, intimate time that the bride and groom, the Chatan and Kala, share with each other directly following the chuppah. And we have in the room here parents who just celebrated the wedding of their daughter, if I'm not mistaken, or son. So Mizal Tov, Mizal Tov. This is very reminiscent. The sages in Masechet Ta'anit, 26b, Chaf Vav Bet, actually compare the giving of the Torah to the celestial wedding. So Mizal Tov to all of us too. We're going to be reenact. It's like the wedding anniversary, the Shavuot for us. In order to have reached this sublime level, we had to do something. Imagine in this metaphor of the Chatan and Kala, the eternal God is the Chatan. We are the Kala. Now, for those of you who have been a Kala, for those of you who hope to be a Kala, and for those of you who marry off your daughters as a Kala, you know what goes on the week before the wedding. A lot in preparation. Well, also the Bnei Yisrael. In order to reach the chuppah at Har Sinai, we had to get ready. We engaged in an extensive 3-day preparation. This is even commanded in Exodus 19, 11 and 12. This is referred to as the Shaloshet Yemei HaHagbalah, the 3 days of boundarying, if I can make a verb out of that now. It's the 3 days of preparation. This practice emphasized the need to increasingly remove oneself from the many everyday mundane concerns that occupy much of a person's time and attention in anticipation of the upcoming spiritual wedding with God, similar to what a bride would do 3 days before her wedding. That may not be the right time to balance the checkbook. Maybe the right time for the father of the bride to balance his checkbook, but not hers. In Exodus 19:16, we read, "And it came to pass on the third day," meaning the final of these 3 days of getting ready, "when it was morning, that there was thunder and lightning and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of a shofar, exceedingly loud. And all the people that were in the camp trembled." That anticipation, that excitement. The sages explain in Masechet Nida, Daf Tet Amud Aleph 9a, that the trembling expresses the shaking off of attachment to the daily mundane matters that would compromise the integrity and the purity of the soon-to-be spiritual moment. So it needs to be understood as a spiritual practice, shaking off. All of this applies to everyone in each and every generation, every year. However, at the time of the actual historical event of Kabbalat Torah, the receiving of the Torah, Bnei Yisrael experienced what the mystics refer to as, and it's actually a term in Aramaic, itaruta de la'ila, a spiritual awakening from above. I mean, just visualize for a moment, you're one of these Hebrew, not that long ago, 7 weeks before, you were emancipated, you were freed, you were liberated from enslavement. And here you are, about to be part of this almost cataclysmic moment. And now there's thunder and lightning, a shofar is blowing. It's quite dramatic. This is an awakening from above. All we did was follow the rules. We were told to prepare, we prepared. Hashem initiated this encounter with Bnei Yisrael. However, and this is where we come in today, since then, in each and every generation, every year, one needs to engage in what the mystics refer to as a spiritual awakening from below. Itaruta dilatata. Instead of from above, from below. Meaning that the individual initiates now this encounter with God. Therefore, each person experiences the receiving of the Torah relative to one's own inner nature, according to one's values and preparations for that moment. At the original event, the one God gave the one Torah at the one place at the one time. That's the itaruta de la'ila, the arousal, the awakening from above. Ever since then, each person receives the Torah in their unique way. Not one way, not one time, not one place. Hold that. Let's hold that for one moment. The giving of the Torah, one giver, one time, one place, one Torah. Receiving the Torah, to the contrary. The Torah that I receive is the same Torah that everyone else in this room receives. I receive it, though, differently. My experience is unique to my mind, body, heart, soul combination, and everything else that defines each one of us as to whom we are. This is similar to when one begins to actively be in a relationship with God. There's a lot of excitement. The person feels a powerful sense of spiritual and emotional elevation and excitement. I remember the first time I learned text. It was 1974. Here in Yerushalayim, I fell in love with Rashi. I fell in love with Chumash. I was already a committed Zionist the year before when I was here during the Yom Kippur War. That did it. But now I'm learning sacred text. It was so exciting. New. How do I keep that? That first moment in a relationship where there's so much passion and excitement and hope. So much, like he says, emotional elevation and excitement. But afterwards, the initial excitement and passion wanes. And now the individual needs to exert effort and to invest intention, i.e., cultivating mindfulness and awareness in order to reclaim that feeling of excitement and passion once again. Chevre, it's there for us. The moment, each moment is new, each moment is unique, each moment is different. We need to cultivate the awareness of that so the relationship doesn't wane, so the excitement doesn't wane, so the passion doesn't wane. Hence, the original receiving of the Torah at Sinai, the wedding, manifested a tremendous revelation. Afterwards, every year at the wedding anniversary, each individual's experience expresses one's own unique and personal spiritual preparation. Here we are together. It's now Monday. 3 more days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we will be ready to usher in Shavuot. We are in the Shaloshet Yemei HaHagbalah. We are preparing to be wed. Well, actually, we have already been wed. We are preparing for the anniversary party. This, in turn, significantly affords each person the maximum opportunity to encounter intimacy. I would argue this is intimacy, spiritual intimacy, and hitkarvut, which is what the Piasetzner always talks about, always teaches to closeness, to nearness, hitkarvut from the word karov, with the divine. How, though, can a person formed from physical matter experience this elevated level of the Lord spoke with you face to face at the mountain from within the fire? Really, how? How is that possible? One unique way that allows for a person to ascend one's personal divine mountain within and to shake off one's attachment to the more coarse, animal-like, ego-based consciousness that we all possess, that we all need in order to survive as a species. One way, though, is to envision oneself as being in a true partnership with our Creator, with the One, with the Eternal, with God, as one is with one's spouse or one's significant other or one's intimate partner in love. Think about how either we are in that relationship, we have been in that type of a relationship, we hope to be in that type of a relationship. What do we think of? What are our experiences? The healthy ones, the ones worth celebrating, the ones that one would look forward to the anniversary. This begins at the wedding and is renewed each year on the wedding anniversary. Still, though, it is not understood how the Jew here in this mashal, in this metaphor, that the Jew, the bride, can actually enter into partnership with God, the creator of all worlds, the groom. How can that be a partnership? And actually, and I'm asking you and inviting you to remember that the Talmud was written between 2 and 500 CE in what now is Iran, Iraq area, not 2023. What I'm going to read is very important. And just imagine that you were at a different place than you are now. During the Talmudic period, when a woman married, she literally brought nothing of her own to the marriage. Why? Because she did not own anything. She literally moved from her father's home to her husband's home. Nevertheless, she entered into a partnership with her husband, who owned everything. See, this is the mashal that the Talmud wants to teach us. How can a human being, any one of us, we don't even really own anything. Everything, la Hashem ha'aretz u'maloah. To God belongs the earth and then the fullness thereof. We may use on loan that which God owns. We don't even really own anything. So how can we be in a partnership with God? How could, in Talmudic times, how could a woman enter into a partnership with her husband? What is she bringing? She owns nothing. But this is not true. Fast forward a few centuries, the Ran, Harav Nisim ben Reuven, 14th century Talmudic scholar. Now, if the Talmud was pretty much fixed at about 500 CE, and this is 1300 CE, so like a lot of centuries have passed, a lot of changes. This is what he comments on a discussion in Tractate Masechet Nedarim 30a, Daf Lamed Amud Aleph, Masechet Nedarim. He argues that, in fact, the bride, at the moment she marries her husband, gives completely of the one thing she has, herself. Herself. She gifts herself to her chatan, to her husband. So while she does not bring any physical property to the marriage, she brings her sense of self, her respect, her integrity, her love, her respect, her compassion, all those beautiful midot tovot that one can cultivate. That's who we are. This is what she brings and gifts to her husband, herself. He then in turn gifts his self to his bride. So what does God give us as the chatan? By offering the same, as he brings his wife into all of that which he possesses. Each time a baby is born, we come into a world and our chatan is giving us everything. Food, shelter, clothing, everything we need physically, everything we need mentally, everything we need spiritually. Our Creator is gifting us. So we can then give back to the Creator the one thing we do have, and that's ourselves. This mutual giving of self to the other results in the merging of egos into the space of achdut, of unity, where each other's ego does not create a separation between the two. Basically, they each give all of what each other has to give to the other, resulting in the bride and the groom becoming partners, shitufim, with each other in one unified ishtatfut, partnership. This exemplifies the practice of what we began the teaching with, what's called hitbatlut ha'enochiyut. Enochiyut is from anochi. It's the sense of I-ness. And the hitbatlut from levatel, from bitul, is to diminish it, to diminish the sense of I-ness. That's what allows me to experience the achdut in partnership with the other. Bride and groom, human being and God, two friends. two siblings, all different types of relationships require, if we're going to experience closeness, we need to trust the process. It's so hard sometimes. We're so afraid to let go. But we're letting go of something that is needed for survival. What's being asked to let go is that part of us that lives in the space of scarcity, of finitude, of fear. We're being asked to let go of that. And that's a big ask. But you know, when you take the swimming lessons, you're ready to jump off into the deep water. Chevra, Shavuot, we're ready to jump into the deep water. We can let go and trust. It's okay to diminish that space of scarcity, that space of not trusting, that space of, I want me to be part of we. Thus, cultivating this spiritual practice whereby the Jew yields and gifts their sense of a limited ego-based self to the expanded, unlimited space of the divine presence brings one to a higher spiritual awareness than all other forms of service. Learning Torah, performing deeds of kindness, that's external. This is internal. Of course, that's important, especially when we're experiencing the intimacy inside. Then it's salt and peppers. It really seasons how we pray, how we observe mitzvot, how we learn. For when a person can dedicate their own sense of ego-based self, allowing for complete and total transparency to God, they then merit the highest and deepest sense of closeness to and intimacy with God. And I'd like to argue that, in fact, where the world is as a whole right now, in one way or another, it just may be my idealism, which I will not apologize for. I am an idealist. I'm an agent of change. I try to be a thought leader. I believe in the best in every situation. The world is yearning for this. The world is so hungry for this. To experience one moment of closeness with their deeper self. We call that God. We call that the divine presence. By any other name, fine. And also for non-Jewish people, fine. This is for all of us. This is for all of humanity. This is a global raising consciousness practice. This indeed manifests the unity between the Holy One, the Blessed Holy One, and the congregation of Israel. This, in fact, is the essence of the holy day, the complete giving over and gifting of one's limited ego self to one's, not to a theology out there, not to philosophy out there, not to community expectations out there. What are we giving our ego self over to? What are we gifting it to? The deeper sense of ourselves, our spirit, the soul that lies within us, that dwells within us. And directing one's consciousness to engage with the infinite godly soul within. That's the essence of the day. One soul, in fact, is the very breath of God. In Hebrew, soul is neshama, breath is neshima. When God breathed into Adam and Chava, they were a mere earthling of physicality. They weren't dead, but they weren't alive. They were just existing. And then God blew breath into the nostrils. It's interesting when we cultivate our contemplative practices and meditation practices. Usually, it's not one of the Aseret HaDibrot that was given at Har Sinai. But usually we inhale, receive breath through the nostrils. And you can visualize that you are Adam and Chava, and you're receiving life for the first time. And at that moment, it is the first time. And where does the breath go? Throughout all of us. It goes throughout every crevice, every cell in our bodies. So by engaging with this deeper part of ourselves, we reenact the celestial wedding that occurred on Har Sinai 3,400 years ago. It's like we are at our own Har Sinai. This spiritual practice of yielding the limited ego, yielding, not destroying, yielding the limited ego to the greater part of ourselves is what allows us to grasp the intimacy and spiritual union, panim b'fanim, with God and with God's Torah. This is the mystery. This is the mystery behind the spiritual practice of hitbatlut he'enochiyut, diminishing the sense of I-ness. The gifting of the I-ness, the ani, the anochi, my sense of my being with all my inner resources and all my traits on a conscious level to my creator, creates several shifts. The Netivot Shalom teaches. This creates a shift to now becoming part of something much greater than I could ever imagine by remaining in the illusion, a false illusion, by remaining a separate entity by myself. Actually, a lot of the practitioners of mindfulness, not only in the Jewish tradition, but surely in some of the Eastern traditions, just the idea that a person feels separate from everything else is an illusion. Here, not only do I not ascribe to the illusion, I'm actually experiencing this moment of engaging with the we, of me engaging with the Creator, with the Shekhinah. This is what we do on the wedding anniversary. We celebrate our marriage. We celebrate our achdut, our oneness. We celebrate our closeness, our intimacy, hitkavut. A shift to now being with the divine in the expansive space of ayin. The word ayin in Hebrew, it means nothing. Because it's so infinite, it can't be contained in something. Only something can be contained in something. Infinity cannot be contained in something. So it's ayin, a space void of ego and a fear-based and survival-based consciousness that erects walls between the individual and the other, whomever the other may be. A shift to the space of transparency and vulnerability. Vulnerability. So many people today are afraid of that. And we all know, even if it remains just intellectually, we have a sense of appreciating that vulnerability is the key ingredient to connection. So this shift is to the space of transparency, vulnerability, the space of trust, compassion, and gratitude. And for those who know Hebrew and for those who don't, try to understand this. It's a shift from the Aleph, Nun, Yud. That's how we spell Ani. Aleph, Nun, Yud. To now, Aleph, Yud, Nun. There's ayin. We don't have to become a different person. Take the same letters as Ani, as I, and just rearrange them a little. That's what it means to diminish. Keep the letters that make Ani. Rearrange them to ayin. That's the nothingness, which really is everything. Everything cannot be contained in anything that's physical. This is the quintessential moment of union and intimacy with the divine. Simply put, it's a profound practice of reprioritizing what is important. Therefore, the goal is to reach this place of surrendering all that would preclude one from dwelling in the space of ayin. that space of transparency. The Baal Shem Tov therefore teaches. Now we go back to the Rambam's bringing up the apparent contradiction between one verse and the second verse that we began the class with, the sharing. The Baal Shem Tov teaches that, in fact, this is the very meaning of the verse when Moshe said to the Chevre, I stood between the Lord and you at that time to tell you the word of the Lord. Anochi omed beinechem. He does not, the Baal Shem Tov, does not see the ani, the I, as Moses. It's the sense of I-ness. Moses is warning, Moshe is warning the Chevre, be very, very careful. If you really want to engage and experience this intimate, incredible, quintessential moment of what it means to be connected to the divine, the only way it won't happen is if you don't get out of your own way and make some space. It's your sense of anochiut, your sense of ani. That's what stands between you, meaning the deeper you, and God. It's amazing. This is Chassidut at its best. One's own egoism and self-centeredness, this enochiut, this is what stands between a person and God. The Baal Shem Tov explains that a person's enochiut is similar to a barrier that prevents one from sensing closeness to God. Therefore, as if Moshe himself were speaking to the Bnei Yisrael, the Baal Shem Tov continues, if you want to reach the space of intimacy with God, panim lefanim, the ultimate experience of attachment and union, know that you are not able to achieve this unless you remove this barrier by the gifting. Give your husband, give your intimate partner the ultimate gift to celebrate the marriage, yourself, the ani, the enochiut, and a sense of limited self to the space of ayin. This dedication and devotion that we bring to our celestial wedding manifests when a Jew gives oneself over to our holy Torah. For this is what brings devekut, attachment to God. As the Zohar teaches in Chelek Gimel, page 73a, Ayin Gimel, Amud Aleph. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kudsha Brichu, Va'oraita, V'Yisrael Kulo Chad. The Holy One, the Blessed Holy One, the Torah, and we, Yisrael, are all one. Therefore, a person truly merits to be in the Torah by gifting and surrendering one's I-ness, one's anuchiyut to her, meaning to the Torah. Indeed, this now becomes the essence of the spiritual practice. This, I would like to suggest, is what I believe the Netivot Shalom understands to be the mitzvah of this Chag HaShavuot. Each one according to one's authentic inner true being, kol echad ve'echad lefi matzavo, each person according to one's many situations. Each one of us can give ourselves to that which is much greater. And that perhaps may be the mitzvah. And I want to add before we, oh good, we're on time. I want to add that if you've noticed, I mentioned in the beginning that the Chazal, the rabbis, refer to this in our tefillah as Zman Matan Toratenu, the time of the giving of our Torah. But if you notice, the Netivot Shalom does not use the phrase, the giving of our Torah. He uses the phrase, Kabbalat Torah, receiving the Torah, because he's teaching the spiritual practice of what he believes to be the mitzvah. Now, if I want to give you something, but your hands are full. I can't give it to you. I have this beautiful gift. It's a nice box, nice gift wrapping, nice bow. And I say to any one of you, I want to celebrate our relationship. I want to give you a gift. And you look at me and say, but Yiscah, that's really nice of you, but I'm holding, I have this other, whatever object is in my hands. That's our ego. So perhaps the mitzvah is this letting go. For me to receive Kabbalat Torah, I need to put down gently, not with violence, not with anger, not with disdain. We need our ego. Our ego is sacred. It was created by the same God that created our soul in its time and place. It's magnificent. When we want to experience intimacy and closeness with the divine, that's not the time to hold on to our ego, because then I can't receive the Torah. I need to receive the Torah open-hearted, with an open heart, with an open mind. That perhaps may be part of the mitzvah of this hitbatlut he'enochiyut, is gently letting go. So then now I can receive. Now I can receive. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, 67 divided. We're going to break up into breakout rooms so people can share with each other. What do you feel? What feelings come up for you? What thoughts come up for you when you read about this hitbatalut enochiyut? Like, what do I give up? What part of my anochi am I ready to maybe gently put down and not hold on so tightly to? Maybe nothing. Maybe I just am not ready yet. Or maybe I really am. And that's why I came to this virtual Beit Midrash today, or this afternoon, or this evening. So we'll kind of do that for about 15 minutes, and then we'll do some practice, and then some questions that you can chat in at the end. Okay, so let's see if I can do this right. So if we have 60, so about 15 rooms. Okay. 15 rooms. Enjoy. Okay, so everyone, welcome back. Welcome back, everyone.
Can't believe that was 15 minutes.
Yes, well, okay. Yeah, we need to cultivate mindfulness. We cultivate it by showing up, being in class in this beautiful virtual Beit Midrash. We cultivate it by breaking out into chavruta and sharing in a group, many groups. And now we're going to be with ourselves for about 5 minutes. This is the time we can sit by ourselves and just contemplate and observe and reflect on what we just learned together, what came up for you in your chavruta in the breakout room. And yes, for right now, I would like everyone to just stay muted. After we come out of our sit, I'm going to allow people, I allow, that sounds so strict. I'll change the settings so you can unmute yourselves. And then we'll, actually, we really won't have time with a large group to voice questions, but surely to put in the chat. and we'll have some time I can review some of the questions in the chat. Okay, so I know some people have to leave. Some people can stay. So if you'd like to stay the next 7 minutes, 6 minutes, let's sit together. Let's begin by, again, really experiencing together b'achdut, together with our minds, our bodies, our hearts and souls. Let us experience what it's like to receive neshima, breath from our Creator, and then pause and just gaze at that for one moment. How could that ever get old? How could that ever get old? Every breath is new. And then return the breath, lean into that space, and feel as you're emptied out what it's like not to feel breath moving. We'll share 3 cycles, and then we'll move into silence. And without judgment, just become aware. What am I thinking? And follow that one thought. Hold that one thought. Expand it in breadth and depth. What am I feeling? What am I sensing right now? Without judgment. And expand it. Maybe give it a color. Give it a shape. Give it a piece of nature. A calm lake, rough waters at sea, peaceful walk in the woods. What am I feeling? Hopeful, inspired, encouraged, or not? And in our closing 2 minutes, I invite you to consider, in honor of Shavuot, as we celebrate in one way or another, however you do celebrate Shavuot, take a few moments during the Chag and think, visualize right now, what is it I want to offer into this relationship? What do I want to give my partner in celebrating our anniversary? What piece of my ego do I want to let go of, even if just for the wedding anniversary, just to try it on for size? Imagine, what does it feel like? We'll sit for one more minute with that. Let us close, Chevre, together as we began, as we share 3 fresh, purifying, new to existence, 3 fresh breaths, breathing cycles being breathed into, given the gift of life, with gratitude returning it, with a pause in between each. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. This was wonderful and will continue to be. So if you have any questions, because of the amount of people in this beautiful virtual Beit Midrash, I would ask that you just chat them in. I'll read them and address them. I see that Rona asks, I can see how to remove the barrier when I feel lost, hopeless, fearful, and I appeal to the divine. But how do we do this regularly? How do we do this regularly? By intending to, by giving yourself, I'm answering to Rona, but to all of you, by giving yourself 5 minutes as part of your practice. If you practice every day for 5, if you don't practice every day, then when you do practice, and maybe consider what you can gift the relationship this Shavuot is a commitment to sit with yourself for 5 minutes every day. And every day, because each day is a new day. We say that in our prayers before the Shema in the morning service. Every day we acknowledge HaMechadesh. God renews the world anew. So Rona and everyone else, I would invite you to consider what today, right now, am I willing to let go of? Not because I'm in pain, not because I'm asking God to do anything, not because I feel I'm suffering. It's because I'm actually in the mood. I want to gift. I want to diminish the I-ness so I can experience, rather than the me, the we. It could be doing one thing differently today. One thing, one act of kindness, one act of compassion. It's letting go. That's the key, the hitbatlut. It's the diminishing. That's where I take up all of my space. It could be with wonderful things. It doesn't have to be where we're bad people. We're good people. But sometimes we just don't realize we're in our own way. So we need to just do that. And to Rona and everyone else, what does this mean for you? Lauren says, I have a difficult time with being one person, losing myself and giving myself to Hashem. I can see being one of all Am Yisrael and giving ourselves to Hashem. Well, I'm going to suggest at least how I understand the teaching. I don't see where this, I don't believe that the Shalom is asking, that the Netivot Shalom is asking any one of us to lose ourselves. I don't see that. That's not what Hitbatluta Anuchiyut means. It doesn't mean to lose yourself. You know, there's a story with the Kotzker Rebbe in the early 19th century in Kotsk, in Poland. It was the custom then that different Hasidim, it's not like today where some people visit their Rebbe once a year, or if they live near their Rebbe, every week they see their Rebbe. For some Hasidim in Poland, if they saw their Rebbe in person one time in a lifetime, they had to travel far and wide. It was difficult. This one Hasid made the difficult trip. He came to Kotsk, and he's granted his audience with his Rebbe, the Kotzker Rebbe. And this was like, I'm here at my Rebbe, with my Rebbe, my spiritual guide. And the Rebbe says, my dear one, how can I help you? So he said, can you help me find God? And the Kotzker says, can I help you find God? You came all the way to Kutsk to ask that question? God is everywhere. You just have to open your eyes. You didn't have to come to Kutsk to find God. So he started crying. This was like the apex, the height of his life as a Hasid of this Rebbe. He said, well, if that's not what I came to you for, can you tell me what I came to you for? Which, of course, what the Kutsk was leading him on. He said, you don't need me to find God. You may need me where I can help you find you. That I can do. And that's why you had to come to Kutsk. And it's not to lose yourself with God. It's to find yourself with God. That's why, Lauren, and to everyone else, I was very careful to translate, and I took liberties, as every translator does, to also translate my understanding. It's not me or you, me talking to God. I have to lose me to be with you. No, it's me or we. So, Lauren, don't lose yourself. Find yourself. And find yourself in relationship to your Creator. Let's see. Okay, this is, I don't know who wrote this because the name is iPhone Bearer. If we bring nothing but the sense of ourselves to the marriage with the divine, what if we feel unworthy or low self-esteem? How to let go of this too? Well, that's beautiful. I mean, not that one would feel that, but that question, so important. AKA, how to feel worthy of the divine relationship, of the relationship with the divine. I'll give you the short answer, whoever this is, I don't know. There's only one reason why all of us are equally worthy of this relationship. Only one reason. And that is the reason, because we're created in the image of the Creator. Our value, our sense of who we are in essence is that. Now, in terms of external achievements, accomplishments, failures, mistakes, behavior, good behavior, not good behavior, all of that is not our essence. That manifests some of what's going on deep down inside. But what's even deeper than deep down inside is God. And that piece of us that is God yearns to reconnect. It's like a child. I know this is going to change the metaphor a little, but in this sense, it's like a child yearning to be close to the parent. That is what the PSS teaches us. So it's not a matter of, am I worthy to be in this relationship? Am I aware that I yearn to be in this relationship? It's awareness. It's awareness. And that doesn't mean that by being in this relationship, the magic wand is waved and all of a sudden, I no longer suffer from a low self-esteem. We can still, spiritual practice is not magic. It takes work. It's called avodah ruchanit. It's spiritual work. However, to the person who asked the question and to everyone else, if at least I identify my essence with God, that's a beginning to cultivate a healthier self-esteem. If I only identify me by my behavior, I disappoint people, I could have been a better person. What was I thinking when I said that? I hurt this one, I distanced that one. I'm so selfish, I'm so self-centered, what is wrong with me? If that's how I identify me, when I look into my mirror of identity, if that's all I am, well, that's where the question is, am I worthy of being in a relationship with the divine? And we would say no. But that's not why we are in a relationship with the divine. It's because we yearn to be in it, not because we're worthy of it. That's very human behavior language. God's world, in God's world, God created us so we would yearn to give to the relationship. Not because and for those who do, it's not because we feel we're worthy of it. I can tell you from a person that has cultivated over decades, moving from a very low self-esteem to a healthy self-esteem. If I really ask me the question at times, am I worthy of this relationship? I would have to answer no. It's too good. It's just too good. But in God's world, I don't have to be worthy for it. I just have to be aware of my yearning to be in it. I think that's the best way I can answer your question. Let's see. Okay, ego doesn't mean self-esteem. It means preoccupation with self. Right, exactly. It's the part of us it's the energy of survival as a species. We need to eat, we need to hydrate, we need to rest, we need to eliminate waste, we need to be warm in the winter and cool, keep the body cool in the summer. These are needs for survival. And when I'm not hydrated and when I'm not rested, I have trouble being my higher self because I'm not healthy when I'm not taking care of my survival-based needs. Maybe the letting go of our own judgment of ourselves. Oh, Ayala, that's beautiful. Yeah, if you notice when I bring us into the practice, the sit, as I learned from my teachers, whatever it is we're thinking, whatever it is we're feeling, without judgment, cultivate awareness. Awareness is the key, not the judgment. Behavior, which is external to ourselves, that requires judgment. Am I exemplifying? Am I manifesting? Am I expressing my higher being through this behavior? Well, hopefully, yes. And if no, well, why not? And that's where there's room for healthy judgment. But remember, an action is not our essence. It doesn't define who we eternally are. So the letting go of our own judgment, very important, very important. All right. Raising ourselves up the ladder. Yes, yes, up the ladder, going up the mountain. By the way, I just learned from a Chassid of the Maggid of Mezerich, a disciple in the latter part of the 18th century, Rav Yaakov Yosef ben Yehuda, Rabbi, yes. He said that he brought down the teaching from the Zohar that the gematria of Sinai and Sulam are the same. Sinai, the mountain, and Sulam is a ladder. Imagine us climbing up the ladder of Har Sinai, our own inner Har Sinai, to greater and higher visions and understandings and feelings of sensing the divine presence, a rung at a time, a rung at a time. Thank you, Shimona. Yes. Okay, I think that's about the end of the questions. Oh, wow, there's a lot here. Okay, Chevre, so thank you. Thank you. So I hope I'm going to unmute everyone so we can all say Chag Sameach to everyone. Okay. Okay, you can all unmute yourselves now. Let's just say, Chag Sameach, Chag Sameach, Chag Sameach.
Beautiful, Yiscah.
Thank you, Yiscah.
Lots of love. And in 2 weeks, I hope to see you at my new class. Practice breath awareness.
Yeah.
Begin in 2 weeks. You'll receive notification. We're going to breathe a lot. We're going to breathe a lot. All different ways of breathing, of being breathed into. So thank you all. Chag Sameach.
Right.
Love you all. Lots of blessings.
Thank you.
Love you too, Yiscah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you,
One
Yiscah.
bad word.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone